This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, folks. This is the More Money Show. That is the More Money hotline and radio show theme song from the Beatles, Money. That's all I want. Well, that's not the only thing I want, but I want prosperity. I want love. I want peace. I want you to be all doing well and enjoying this wonderful summer. I hope it's not too hot where you are. Incidentally, this is Red Apple Audio Network, and thanks so much to my good friend John Catsimatidis, who runs Red Apple and also runs our flagship station in New York, WABC. For giving me this opportunity. We've been doing this now, 4 years or so. My assistant, Jackson Avery, is here. He's always next to me at the microphone. And we're expanding. We're expanding big time. So now we have stations in Los Angeles, Kansas City, Chicago, throughout the Northeast. And so it's exciting for me to be able to. It's exciting, and it's also a real privilege to be in front of this microphone to talk to you. And I learn a lot from you. That's why I almost always take callers during this show. And some of you are listening, you get the show for 1 hour. Some of you get the show for 2 hours, depending on what media region you're in. But I love to hear from you because I learn from you. I always say I'm not the smartest radio talk show host by any means, but I have the smartest audience. We have really, really smart people with great insights. This is freedom of speech radio. I love to hear from people who disagree with me. By the way, if I'm slurring a little bit today, it's because I had a tooth pulled about a week ago, and my jaw is still a little bit swollen, so I apologize about that. And it stings, by the way. I'm a little bit drugged up too, but I can get through this, I promise. And I hate going to the dentist, by the way. My wife made me go to the dentist, and she made me get this tooth pulled. So anyway, a lot to talk about. I'm excited. I'm excited about America. I think things are going really well. I think we've turned a corner here. I think Biden inflation, Biden economics is well behind us now. As you know, this is the 6-month anniversary of the Trump economy, Trumponomics, what I call Trumponomics 2.0. And I hope you guys get my book that I wrote with Art Laffer that came out about 10 months ago called The Trump Economic Miracle, because look, we called it. This is a miracle what's going on here. If anything, it's better than I thought it would be. So many good things can happen in the economy. Low inflation, low unemployment rate, a lot of jobs out there, 7 million job openings in America today. Consumer confidence up, business confidence up. If you look at capital spending, which is really critical, investment spending businesses up, small business confidence up. All of the indicators are pointing north right now. It's really an exciting period. I'm super bullish right now. Oh, by the way, stock market, S&P 500, Dow Jones at or above their all-time highs. Remember 6, 9, 12 months ago, everybody said, oh my God, if Trump is president, he's going to cause a Great Depression. We're going to have a stock market crash like we saw in 1929. Now, look, anything can happen to the stock market. It's always volatile. No one never knows when the next big correction is going to happen. But so far, especially in the last 3 months, things are really sailing ahead at a very nice pace. So I'm very pleased about that. And incidentally, I'm not on this show, and I love Donald Trump. He's been very good to me personally. I really admire him greatly, but I try to call the balls and strikes on this show as fairly as I can. When I don't like one of his policies, I will speak out about it. I'm not huge fan of firing Jerome Powell. I know that President Trump wants to do that. I'm kind of on the fence of that one. I think some of you probably in favor of that. Some of you are not. I guess I think I'd probably wait him out. He's only got 6, 7, 8 months to go. So let's just let him serve his term and then get him the hell out of town. I don't know if you followed this. $2.5 billion he is allowed to be spent. $2.5 billion on just renovating the Fed building. Come on, they've got the glitziest building in Washington already. You would think the Fed, which is always complaining about overspending in Washington, would start at home with their own spending, but they haven't done that. So there are a lot of reasons to get rid of this guy, but I don't think now is the right time to get rid of him. You know, and I do believe he's out to get Trump. He hates Trump. Trump isn't too fond of him either. But I wouldn't unsettle the markets by firing him right now. But I know some of you may have a different opinion of that. I know President Trump has a different opinion on that. All is good. All is good. And I'm feeling upbeat. I wanted to cover a couple of things. By the way, we're going to have a fabulous show today. We're going to have Steve Forbes on, who is he's an icon in the economy on finance, and he's going to tell us what's going on. We've got Ryan and Bob Payne coming on to tell us about how to make more money, and other great guests. For in the second hour, I'm going to have on the CEO of a company I just joined the board of, which is called Lightspeed, and we're going to build houses. We're building houses with robots, and it's an amazing technology. It's going to take, robots are going to take over, folks. I mean, robots are coming. They're coming, and so is artificial intelligence. It's going to change everything about the way we work and play. And make things in America. So I think you'll be fascinated by what my friend Baiju has to tell you about that. Okay, a couple things. Let me go. There's so many things. I've got a list of about 12 things here I want to talk about. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly, and as many as I can before we have to take our break, which is about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, well, number one. I love that Trump is talking about fostering this AI revolution. I know there's some scary things about the AI revolution. Are the robots going to be working for us, or are we going to be working for the robots? And is artificial intelligence going to change the world in a good or bad way? Look, I believe in progress. This is going to be amazing. A lot of the drudgery kind of work is going to be gone in the next 20 years, and that's a good thing. So that means we're going to have our workers ready for the new economy that's coming at light speed. But it means that the drudgery of working in factories that are hot and people carrying around heavy equipment and so on and getting injured, all of those things are going to change really dramatically. How about the fact that in the West Coast we already have automated cars, and we have, so if you buy, if you're in Los Angeles and you order an Uber, it may well be a automated car that takes you, and that lowers costs. It's coming. 5 years from now, most of the Uber and Lyft drivers will be robots, and whether you like that or not, it is coming. And it will reduce costs and will make our society a lot more productive. But Trump is saying the United States has to lead the AI revolution, and I'm 100% with him on that. We've got to be number one in robotics. We've got to be number one on drones. We've got to be number one in AI. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, how long do you think it will be? Let's just kind of think big here. How long will it be before we have flying cars? So that the cars don't drive on the road. It's like the Jetsons. Remember that old cartoon, The Jetsons, where literally cars will be flying and they'll take you wherever you want to go. And I don't think that's so far off. So the future, I believe, is very exciting. Trump wants America to lead the way like we led the way in the internet revolution. Fantastic. I love the fact that he is a big thinker that way, and he always puts America first. Another thing I wanted to mention, and by the way, as I said, there's 12 things. I'm only going to get 3 or 4 of them. So throughout the show, I'll get to some of these other things. How about the fact we got rid of NPR and we got rid of public broadcasting? I've been saying this on Fox News, but one of the richest guys in America is Elmo. So is Miss Piggy, and so is the Cookie Monster. I mean, these things made billions and billions of dollars. Why do we need to be subsidizing this? And listen, I listen to NPR now and then, and I occasionally watch Mystery Theater and some of the other things on Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The other day, they had a thing on. I watched the whole thing. It was a Simon and Garfunkel concert in New York City, which was fantastic. I think that was in the mid 1970s or early 80s, and it was fantastic. Some of the best TV you'll ever see. But if you want to watch that stuff, you should pay for it. If you think it's of value, pay for it. So they'll just have more telethons. I'm not saying NPR should be going away. I'm saying the taxpayers should not pay for it. And if you have a different opinion, I'll want to take your calls on all of this stuff. Before I forget, our call-in number for the show is 1-800-848-9222 for the More Money Hotline, 1-800-848-9222 or 1-800-848-WABC. And you'll be able to voice your opinion on this, because I know a lot of you probably disagree with me, but we also got rid of the USAID because I think foreign aid is complete corrupt. The only people who get rich off of foreign aid are rich people. That doesn't help people in starving Africa or these other countries that are desperately poor. Do you think that money actually gets in the hands of poor people? If you do, you're incredibly naive. It's a corrupt system. It's never helped. The only thing that's going to help Africa and some of the poor Asian countries that are living at subsistence level is free market capitalism. I've said this on the show before. You really want to help people in these poor countries? Let's get thousands and thousands of copies of Milton Friedman's book, Capitalism and Freedom, and just drop them out of airplanes all over the place so that people can understand how you create prosperity and how you create living standards. I'm told we have to take a break now, folks, so we will take a quick break. We'll be right back. Remember, the call-in number is 1-800-848-9222. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Speaking of esteemed economists and financial wizards, now we have one of the icons in America, one of the conservative heroes, free market heroes, Steve Forbes. Steve is a partner of mine at Unleashed Prosperity. He and I just got back a week or two ago on an incredible cruise sponsored by Forbes Media in the Mediterranean, and we went to Spain and Italy and Malta. And Steve, that was a great time being with you.
It was good fun, and got to see Carthage in Tunisia. Which,
that was an amazing part. What was it? Was it Cato the Elder who every speech he gave said Carthage must be destroyed? And
that's right. It was in the Third Punic War, as they called it. However, 100 years later, Julius Caesar said it's a great area, great port, critical to see the Mediterranean. Yep. So he resurrected Carthage. So he wasn't going to let the past get in the way of making Rome great again.
Well, you and I are exactly. And incidentally, you guys at Forbes do those cruises once or twice a year. So people can, if they want to do that, they can sign up for that, right?
That's right. They can go on Forbes.com and punch in Forbes Investor Cruises, or just go online for Forbes Investor Cruises. They get to hear geniuses, people like you.
And you, and then it's amazing. I've done I think 3 or 4 of them with Steve Forbes, and they're really great. I mean, they're fantastic. Okay, Steve, I've got. By the way, instead of Carthage must be destroyed, I think you and I, every time we give a speech, it's Social Security must go private. We got to let people put their money into a private account because they would get such a higher return. And this is one of the many things I wanted to talk to you about. And by the way, we're going to have Steve on for 2 segments. Thanks for. This is going to be a short one. Then we'll have Steve on for a longer segment after our break. But Steve, you were the one who sort of invented the whole idea of letting young people put their Social Security payroll tax money into a personal account, have it invested in an index fund, and let it rise with the market. And you've been singing that tune for at least 25, maybe 30 years. If we had done that, every young people, somebody like me who's just about, 65, I'd have about 3 times more money that I'd get than Social Security is going to pay me. Why can't we get this done?
Because everyone, the Democrats don't want to lose control. Republicans are fearful on the issue.
That's right.
And one of the things, though, is you have to make clear, which I did when I ran in 1996 for president. Yes. I went to Sun City in Arizona and broached that plan, but I made it very clear. your plan is not going to change. Your benefits are not going to change. That's where Republicans have to get off this thing. Oh, we must cut Social Security benefits.
I know.
Get off of that. We have a decent economy. We have enough resources to pay people's benefits, promised benefits. But you make the case for your grandchildren, for younger people. This is the way to go to make sure they have something. And done right, they'll have far more. And even if you just put your money in CDs or treasuries over your working life, even if you're making minimum wage, you'll get a far bigger benefit, 2 to 5 times what you're going to get now from the current system. And you own it, not the politicians, and you choose the age at which you can withdraw the benefits, not have to worry about politicians saying, oh, you can or can't withdraw it. That's your decision. It's your property.
Steve, we only got 2 minutes before the break. I mean, you're exactly right on all those things. I just add one other thing to what you just said. Let's say you turn 72 or 75 and you die. Now you have this money. You could actually turn that money over to your kids or your grandkids.
Yeah, or your favorite pet. It's up to you. It's your money.
Now, one quick thing, because literally in 90 seconds we have to take a hard break, but there is this proposal that I hate. It's by 2 senators, Senator Kaine of Virginia and one of the senators from Louisiana, Cassidy. And what they want to do is they want to have the government invest the money and put the government in the stock market. I think that's a horrible idea.
Yes, call it pension fund socialism. Imagine the federal government owning the equities in this country. No.
Terrible.
Terrible. That's something the socialists would love. So I'm not surprised the senator from Virginia, Senator Kaine, who ran for vice president under the Democratic ticket in 2016, let us not forget, lost to Donald Trump and Mike Pence in those days. But it would end up giving them hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. And when the government owns most of a company, that's pension fund socialism. They don't have to nationalize it. They control it anyway through your money. Crazy idea.
You're right. So just to be clear, folks, what Steve Forbes and I are talking about is you get to own the money. The government doesn't own the money, and there's a big difference there. Okay, we're going to keep Steve Forbes on. We got a quick break. We're going to hear a quick news break, and then we'll be back with Steve to talk about the Trump economic agenda. This is The More Money Show, folks. Thanks for listening.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. We have on the line one of the icons in American finance and economics, Steve Forbes, who was a good friend. And Steve, I want to talk to you about policy, but I'm sure you've heard the news that another icon in the conservative movement, Ed Feulner, died, I think, yesterday. I believe you were on the board of the Heritage Foundation. I don't know if I think you were, but you knew Ed Feulner. I think it's a great loss. He was a huge inspiration to me and critical in the Reagan movement.
He was, and he did die yesterday. I was privileged to sit on the board for a number of years, and Ed Feulner was key to the Reagan Revolution of the 1980s. Back in the 1970s, the conservative movement was a shadow of what it is today.
That's true.
He put together this fantastic foundation, doing research papers, policy papers, and set the agenda for the first Reagan administration. Gave it a sense of direction. You know, when Richard Nixon won the election in 1968, they really didn't have a clue how to move forward on the domestic front. And so,
they weren't conservatives. Nixon wasn't a conservative.
No, but the nice thing about what Heritage did, it gave coherence to the conservative movement, gave it meat on which you could offer the public and make a case for these issues that never were going to get it from the mainstream media. So he played an enormous role in getting America back on track again. People forget today, but in the 1970s, we were seen as a nation in decline. The Soviet Union was seen as the rising nation. Malaise, inflation was here forever. But thanks to the work of Ed Follner and his teams that he put together, this thing was turned around. Ideas matter. They shape how we see the world. He recognized that and devoted years to making that institution, the Heritage Foundation, and like-minded other institutions that rose up to carry the torch.
I couldn't say it better. The one other thing that he did was there was a snot-nosed kid who had pimples on his face and 23 years old, just out of college, who he hired to be a research assistant at the Heritage Foundation. And that was a guy by the name of Steve Moore. And he really, was the guy who trained me to be, I wouldn't be in Washington today. I wouldn't be in this line of business if it weren't for Ed Follner. And by the way, there are hundreds of other people like myself who kind of went to what I call Heritage University and learned about the conservative movement. So I am forever personally grateful for what he did.
And you got paid instead of paying tuition.
You know what? That's a great point. I probably learned more at Heritage than I did in college. A great point. But there are literally hundreds of people in Washington today that in high level positions who got their training at the Heritage Foundation. And so it is a big loss to our movement. The other thing he did, Steve, as you know, because you were there back then, I was just really getting started in the early 80s. But he was one of the first guys who said, look, you write a 600-page book on this policy or that policy like the Brookings Institute was doing, or AEI back then when it was all run by corporatists, and nobody read the stuff. It didn't have any impact on the policy. And you used to say, Follner used to say, look, the average intelligence of the people in Capitol Hill is about a seventh grader. So make it something that they can understand and that they will read. And that's why the Heritage Foundation was so hugely influential, because they put out stuff in a timely manner, responding to what was happening in 24 hours on Capitol Hill. Nobody had been doing that before.
No, it's sort of an intellectual version of Paul Revere. Every night, spreading the alarm.
Well said.
Statists are coming. The socialists are coming. Here's what we can do about it. Here are the issues. And they did have that quick response, which is essential for our people who in the past had nowhere to turn to fight, get the ammunition to fight the statists, the big government people. He made that possible to fight back.
So the other person, this has been a tough few weeks because we also lost another icon in the business community, and that was, of course, Fred Smith of FedEx. And I know you knew Fred as well. One of the things that it is important for people to know this, that when Fred, this story, Steve, you probably knew Fred better than I did, but he also took a shining to me. And I was proud to call Fred Smith a friend. But, people said, no way, you can never do that. This guy's crazy. He's going to try to build an international packaging thing that's going to get packages to somebody overnight. That can't possibly work.
Well, the thing is, he went to Yale. He did a paper outlining this idea, and the professor was going to flunk him, but decided to give him a C. But because
it would never work,
and he overcame many obstacles. The story. The early days they were losing money, and he went one weekend to Las Vegas. And a brilliant man that he was, he won tens of thousands of dollars. What did he use it for? To meet the payroll.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing.
The company going.
Well, you and I were talking when we were on our cruise. We did the Forbes cruise for those just joining us, and that's a great thing. People, if you want to have fun and meet really great people and learn a lot, do one of the Forbes investment cruises. But you were telling me that at one point, Forbes, I think it was your grandfather, Forbes almost went out of business during the Depression and just kept to it and stuck with it. And I can't tell you how many business leaders I've met who said, we faced really tough times. We were close to going out of business, and then it clicked. And that stick-to-itiveness is really essential to being successful in business.
Well, my grandfather loved that word, stick-to-itiveness. It was one of his highest words of praise.
I must have learned it from him.
Life never goes in a straight, wonderful line. The trend line may be good, but you're going to have ups and downs. And I wish they'd do a better job of teaching young people. It is going to be some rough rides along the way. But Calvin Coolidge was taught back when he went to college in the 1890s. He had a professor who told his students, get in the stream of life. Don't stay on the banks. When you're out, get in the stream of life. And you may not know where it's going to actually take you or where you're going to be guided to. But you got to get into it and see where it leads. You just can't stand on the sides. And
well, you're exactly right.
Sitting in the basements, not going in the stream of life. Huge loss for them and huge loss for the country.
It is. You just mentioned, we've been talking, folks, the last 15 minutes on the show of 4 icons. 5, I guess. Paul Revere. By the way, I'm going to steal your line on Paul Revere because that's a great point about Ed Feulner. He was the Paul Revere of the conservative movement. But you got Paul Revere, you got Steve Forbes, you have Fred Smith. Yeah, thanks. So anyway, folks, this country is booming right now, and it's for many people who have been involved in making the Trump miracle happen, but Steve Forbes has been instrumental in that. Steve, thanks for joining on a Saturday afternoon. This is The More Money Show, and we will be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's time for Keeping an Eye on Your Money. Now, here's Ryan Payne from Payne Capital Management.
Given all the global uncertainty, you might be thinking about how to protect, grow, and live off your retirement savings. I'm Ryan Payne, president of Payne Capital Management. That's P-A-Y-N-E. We'll run for you our total financial master plan, a complete financial review with no obligation or cost. Unlike any other financial firm out there, we literally do the work up front. We'll give you a comprehensive view of your entire financial life. We'll address Social Security, portfolio withdrawals, inflation, and taxes. Build a dynamic income plan so you don't run out of money. If you're one of the next 10 callers and you saved over $1 million for your retirement, simply call or text 844-752-6692. That's 844-752-6692. Speak with our certified financial planners and financial advisors at 844-PLAN-NYC. That's 844-PLAN-NYC.
Welcome back, folks. This is The More Money Show on stations affiliated throughout the country. Our flagship, of course, is WABC in New York. And one of the groups that has been with us from the very start, I think from when we started The More Money Show 3 or 4 years ago, are Bob and Ryan Payne of Payne Capital Management. And gentlemen, first of all, I want to say thanks for your continued support for the show. You guys have been instrumental to its success.
Hey, Steve, our pleasure, and it's always great to be here. And it is, as you said, morning in America. So
it is morning in America.
And Steve Moore on a Saturday. Or Saturday doesn't get better than that.
So let us talk about the fact that this is the 6-month anniversary of the inauguration of Donald Trump. So we have 6 months in the bank. The first 3 months were kind of rocky. Remember mid-April? I think, Bob, you had to walk me off the ledge. I was ready to jump when the Dow fell by 2,500 points. But boy, we've seen an incredible recovery. How do you gauge things now in terms of where we are with the equity markets? People have seen a nice run up. I think we're at the record levels high on the S&P and Dow. I may be wrong about that. If we're not at a record high, we're near one. So, Bob, I'll start with you since you're the elder statesman. What do you think? Where do we go from here? Are you bullish still?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Steve. When you have a lot of this volatility, what Ryan and I refer to that and to our clients, it's noise. Sometimes you just have to look through the noise to look at the facts and see what's really going on.
Right.
And, the stock market's very dependent on earnings. And I got to tell you, we kicked off earnings last week with the big banks reporting very strong earnings.
Those are the banks?
Yet. We only have about 12. Yep.
The banks, the big ones.
Yeah, the banks. Yeah, we had Bank of America. We had JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, all came in with absolutely strong earnings.
Why do you think the banks are doing so well? Why do you think the banks are doing so well?
Well, first of all, we have strong, unemployment remains low, inflation remains in check, right? We have that kind of volatility. The banks have, some very, very bright people trading their capital. So they're taking full advantage, of the volatility, as we have been advising our clients to do on this podcast, on this phone, this radio show for the last couple of years, Steve.
Yep.
Every dip's been a buying opportunity.
Yep. And you've been right. You've been right about that. Spot on. And so when that market takes a dip, as it always does, you guys have been the first ones to roar out buying opportunities, and you've been absolutely right about that. Now, though, we've seen a run up. Maybe people are getting a little bit of fear of heights.
That's a really good point. And I think there is this feeling of being between a rock and a hard place, right? Because now you see the S&P 500's at a record high. What's interesting right now, there's still $7 trillion sitting in money market funds right now. So there's still a lot of money in cash on the sidelines. And if you believe like me, Steve, and I don't know, I think the Fed here has a lot of pressure to cut interest rates. And at some point, Jerome Powell is going to have to cave because he's really accomplished what he said he's going to accomplish, right? We have, like we said, we have tame prices, we have full employment. If he cuts interest rates, well, if you had a money market fund that was paying 5% a year ago, now it's at 4%, and then it goes to 3.5%, where's that money going to go? That's a lot of money that could funnel to the stock market. But I'd mention here, there's a lot of places to put your money that aren't at an all-time high like the S&P 500. We just talked about the banks. The banks are doing great. If you look at financials, they trade a lot cheaper than the S&P 500. And in fact, if you look at the last 12 months, industrials, materials, lots of places that pay dividends had actually been outperforming that Magnificent Seven tech trade that everybody wants to put their money into. So I think it's a good time to buy, but it's a very good time to diversify. And I think that's what you have to think about when you're building your portfolio, specifically for retirement.
That's Ryan Payne of Payne Capital Management. And Ryan, I see you on Fox Business News all the time, and you always do an amazing job with Maria and others. So appreciate your words of wisdom. I wanted to ask you both about something that happened this week that I was kind of excited about. I want your take on it, which is that have you been following the executive order on the 401k plans? And this is, I'm not sure I completely understand it. You guys are more the experts on this than I am, but it will allow 401k plans to invest in more private companies, private equity, and things like that. Bob, I don't know if you've been following this, but it sounds like it'll allow people like me with a 401k plan to expand my portfolio and get a higher return. What do you think?
Well, I think that it's excellent that they're expanding the 401k offerings, allowing people to participate in some of the markets that heretofore were only available to what we call the big institutional, right? The big money, right, Steve?
Yep. Yeah.
But I think you got to be very careful because it's, when you look at retirement and the real secret to a retirement plan's success is the compounding of dividends and interest.
Right.
And unfortunately, these new products come with large fees, which you don't really see. And I think net of the fee, it's not going to be as great a deal for the retail investor, the people that we represent, the high net worth, the people who are contributing to 401ks. I think you stick to the basics of investing: stocks, bonds, commodities. that is returned a market return that would make everybody wealthy if they've invested from day one.
So one thing about the two of you that I really admire is that you've been really bullish for the last couple of years at a time when so many others of us were bearish about things, and we have gotten through Bidenomics. It was a rough period, but it's been a good, there's no question it's been a good run up in the market for the last couple of years. So congrats. You guys were right when a lot of the other so-called experts were wrong about the market. But my question is, are you always bullish? I mean, because your theme is be bullish, and I love that. I love that attitude. But maybe is it time, given how bullish the market has been, to step back a little bit? What do you think, Bob?
Well, it's not just one stock market. It's a market of markets, right?
That's
have
true.
The U.S. market. You have large company stocks, small company stocks, mid-sized company stocks. And I think there's a gigantic opportunity for all investors to expand their interest in their investment in small company stocks. I mean, these are companies that will benefit from lower interest rates. They're benefiting from the big, beautiful bill in terms of how they can increase their earnings and their productivity. And, we also had, a new recovery high in emerging markets this week, Steve. But we had big moves in growth this week. We had a great recovery in growth stocks, which was awesome. Our mid-cap growth portfolio.
So do you like the emerging markets?
Yeah, I think emerging markets are a great diversifier. You've got higher dividend yields. You've got lower valuations. You've got 2/3 of the world's population live within those markets. It's a recipe for, creating wealth. And I'm not saying put all your eggs in any one basket. Don't put anything in one egg. I said, but one of the eggs in that basket's got to be emerging markets right now. India's growing. Taiwan's growing. Latin America is growing like you can't believe. It's sneaking up on everybody, and portfolios we're looking at don't have emerging markets in them right now.
So one of the services that you provide at Payne Capital Management, which is not unique but rare, is that you're teaching your investors and clients how to diversify, because diversification, Ryan, is so critical to making money.
It really is. I mean, this year is the perfect example of that, right? Is the fact that who would have guessed the international markets at the beginning of the year would be the best performer? And I think it also, it does play into, I think, what President Trump's viewpoint is, right? It's commerce, not conflict. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing, right? I think it's a big deal. And I think you have to appreciate the fact that we want America to be first. American exceptionalism is certainly critical. But also, I think what President Trump appreciates is when everyone does well, it benefits everybody. And
well,
I think
especially
that's what we're seeing this year.
Yeah, well, great point. I would only amend that to say that when we do well and we get it right, as we are under Trump, the rest of the world follows. And, that's a great thing. Well, that's Bob and Ryan Payne, two of the best in the business. Their motto is be bullish. And I love that. That's why I love having them on the show. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Have a great weekend. And folks, this is the More Money Show. We will be right back.
Hey, and if you're thinking to yourself right now, okay, I need to get my finances in order. I need to get my retirement plan in place. Well, here's your shot to do it. Bob and I, for the entire show, will keep 10 slots open. If you saved over $1 million for your retirement, we'll run for you our now famous Total Financial Master Plan, and we'll do that with no obligation or cost. It's a full holistic review. We literally look at everything. There's not a firm out there that will do this work up front. We go as far as building you your own personalized financial portal. We'll give you a bird's eye view of your entire financial life and hone in on every financial issue you need to address today, whether it's an income plan for retirement, how to take Social Security, how to draw from your portfolio, factor in inflation, and not run out of money. We're going to build you that dynamic income plan. We're going to look at diversification. Markets have been wild this year. I don't need to tell you. Has your portfolio been way too volatile? Or have you been sitting with way too much money in cash, CDs, money market funds, paralysis by analysis? Well, we'll put together a full investment game plan. We'll show you how to grow your wealth, but most importantly, protect it over the rest of your life. And we'll look at fees and taxes. Wall Street loves to sell you high cost, tax inefficient products, whether it's an annuity, mutual fund, brokerage product, structured product, insurance. We'll go through every investment you own. We'll do a deep dive. We'll show you how to reduce the cost and optimize your portfolio for taxes. It's not what you make, it's what you take. You'll get our full tax playbook. We have 10 slots. If you saved over $1 million for your retirement, we'll run our Total Financial Master Plan. All you need to do is text or call right now at 844-752-6692. That's 844-752-6692. Speak with one of our financial advisors, certified financial planners at 844-752-6692. That's 844-752-6692. That's 844-PLAN-NYC. That's 844-PLAN-NYC.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yeah, just give me money, folks. That's what the More Money Show is all about, how you can make more money. So we are so thrilled to be on WABC and other affiliates throughout the country, talking about how you can make more money, talking about the economy, talking about finance, talking about politics, talking about life in general. We try to make it fun. We try to make it lively. This is the 6-month anniversary of Trumponomics. How do you like it now, folks? I'm pretty happy with the way things are going in the country, but I want to hear from you. We got a couple of great guests coming up on the show, but I've saved most of the second half of the hour to taking your calls. So don't call in yet, but call in maybe at the bottom of the hour because we want to hear from you. 1-800-848-9222 or 1-800-848-WABC is our More Money Hotline number. But before we get to that, I was so eager to bring on a friend and a colleague and a guy who I think is one of America's great innovators. I just call him Baiju. He is the founder of Redbox. You may recall Redbox, where you would go in front of the the 7-Elevens and you would pick out your video, and that was a hugely successful business. He started Halo. He started about 3 or 4. He's a serial entrepreneur from India. He's the classic American success story of coming to the country, United States when he was, I think, a late teenager, and has been successful in everything he's done. And I got involved in his company, which is called Lightspeed, which I mentioned earlier in the show last hour, that this is a company that is going to build houses with robots. It's an amazing technology. I think it can change the world. I think it can really reduce the price of housing and make sure that the housing shortage that we're facing right now goes away. Baiju, thanks so much for joining this afternoon.
Great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
So you've been a great entrepreneur. How many companies have you started?
This is my 5th company. Very excited. So very excited to do things that change America and change the world in some way.
So we were talking with Steve Forbes on the last hour about the fact that companies very rarely have a straight arrow just going up, that, you have good times and you have hard times when you start a company. Forbes magazine almost went out of business during the Great Depression. And Fred Smith, who started FedEx in the beginning, first or second year, it almost went bankrupt, and he stuck with it and it became one of the most successful companies in history. I call you a serial entrepreneur. You probably face tough times with some of your companies, but most of them have been big successes.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky to have a couple of great successes. But the thing with these companies is that building great companies it's always messy. It's never easy. It's always messy, and I always say that if at the start of all these companies, if you really realized how hard it is, most people wouldn't do it. But I think the great thing about entrepreneurs is that, and that's the great thing about America too, is we attract entrepreneurs like this. Is that we're so driven by the ultimate impact and the end vision, and that vision is so great that that's what sort of lets you get out of bed every morning and go through the tough times. Face a lot of rejection, go through all that, because that's. That ultimate vision and ultimate end goal is what keeps all these companies humming, and I think it makes everything worth it at the end.
Yeah. So it's your baby, right? It's like when you create something, it's your baby. You want to make sure it succeeds.
Absolutely, and I always tell a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new entrepreneurs approach me for advice, thoughts, and mentorship. And I always tell them you can't be doing this for the money. You have to be doing this for something greater that you're changing in the world, and that and a lot of these things, you can always keep the vision. The ultimate vision that you're working for is more constant, but whatever your starting tactics are, whatever your starting plan is, that changes completely. When you actually hit the road, and that's always been a constant in all the companies I've started. You pivot 100 times. You go through, as you said about Steve Forbes too. You go through some really tough challenges, but
right.
But if you have that resilience, if you have the grit, and you really have that determination to change what you set out to change, you get through all that.
So let's talk about Lightspeed. You started telling me about this, I think, about a year ago when we first met. You live in the Chicago area, and I was visiting Chicago. We had lunch, and I was just blown away by this technology. Well, first of all, how'd you come up with this idea of building houses with robots?
Yeah, so I think the idea came from I think all startup ideas for a lot of entrepreneurs come out of solving some problem that very often they personally face. And for me, this was something I thought about. Literally 20 years ago, I was thinking about building my own house and just realized that, this is going to take 2 or 3 years if you're lucky. It's going to cost you so much, whatever you predicted the cost to be if you're lucky, and get what you want again if you're lucky. And, all the unpredictability of all of this just showed me that maybe there was a better way to do things. Gartner did a study of 50 different industries in America over the last 60 years, and they said 49 had increases in productivity except for construction. It should, so it just basically pointed to there's a better way to do things. There's a better way to build homes, and all of America, all of our a big part of our increase in GDP, in our growth, in the economy is all driven by increases in productivity. The iPhone I'm calling you on right now, probably represents 50 other things, 50 other different devices that it encapsulates in a small box. And all these things are compressed and can be built at a much lower cost because of increases in productivity, technology, productivity, but that hasn't translated into building homes. We're still building homes like we did right after World War II. And that's wrong.
That's one of the things that really attracted me to this company is the fact that it is sort of a breakthrough technology. Now, you and I spent last weekend. You were showing me around the factory and showing me around a demo of how it's going to work. And by the way, how could people? Because even the video of what these robots can do is pretty amazing. How do people access that?
Yeah, so right now, the company is just a year and a few months old, and so at the moment, we're just in the early stage with our early MVPs, minimum viable products. We're selling to developers, so our goal is first to sell to a few developers, and then as we get more of our data points out, we do want to sell to a larger audience, but we're not trying to be the general contractor, or we're not trying to be the developer. Our goal is basically to enable the existing developers, the existing contractors to access this. So right now, if somebody wants to buy a home from us, they would have to go through one of the developers or contractors that we work with, and it's a smaller data point right now. It's a smaller crowd right now, but it's going to grow as we keep making more progress.
So the video, is that available online to see the video of how these robots work, or is that proprietary?
Yeah, no, we have some of that on our website, which is buylightspeed.com. And
what is it again? I'm sorry, say it again. What is it?
It's buylightspeed.com.
Lightspeed.com. Okay.
Yeah, bylightspeed.com is our website, and so you can see some of the videos there. But if anybody wants, there are ways to contact us on the website, and we can help anybody who's interested in this.
And by the way, I'm not here to advise people to invest in this or not. I don't care one way or the other. I think people should be aware of this technology. It's so amazing because I think robotics and AI, Baiju, are going to change. You and I were talking about this last weekend. This change is coming at a warp speed. And I think a lot of Americans aren't aware that, like we're going to have driverless cars. We're going to have, sometime maybe in 25 years, we'll have flying cars. We'll have so much is changing because of this technology and AI and robotics and so on. And I think your company is just one example of how it's going to change the way we work and live and play and pay for things.
Absolutely. I think AI is going to make huge changes to America and dramatically increase the productivity by which we get our homes, we get our education, we get our food, and we get our transportation, as you said, driverless cars. So I think that this is just a starting point. But I think to your point, the amount. We're just at the start, and we're just at the start of this revolution. And if people ask me, sometimes people tell me, do you think AI is overhyped? And I feel it's underhyped because people don't realize how dramatic the changes will be. And the changes, I think it's such a great time to be alive because these changes are going to be going to give every American the homes that today only very rich people have. And
so you were mentioning earlier, just got a minute left, Baiju, but you were mentioning that, the soul of the entrepreneur is to solve a problem. And we have one of the things that attracted me to this, and I'm really trying to help you solve a big problem in America, which is the cost of housing, that a lot of young people, I have 2 sons in their early 30s, they can't, afford to buy a house now. If this technology works as you and I think it will, and your company expands as I think it will, how much do you think that this technology could reduce the price of building a new home?
30%. And 30?
I think that's a big deal.
30%. I think it's a very big. It can reduce the cost of building a home by a third, and I think that can have a huge impact on the affordability of homes in America. And it's not, and even the people who currently have homes should get a better home with technology like this, because most of us live in a home that was built for 10 owners ago. We had somebody a long time ago in the 50s design something that was in the 50s, and now we're inheriting it after 10 remodeling jobs, and we need something new. So I think this is going to make homes more affordable for every American, and I'm very excited about what can happen with this.
One other question on the way out, Baiju, and that is, by the way, Baiju is the inventor and entrepreneur who's created a company called Lightspeed, which builds homes with robots. I was looking at the statistics. You were born in India?
I was born in India, correct.
Yeah. So I was looking at the statistics, and they're just amazing. The census data just came out. Indian Americans who were born in India have an incredible success rate when they come to the United States. And India is a pretty poor country. Why do you think that is?
So I think the easiest explanation for that is the way our immigration laws were designed back in the 60s and leading up to now. A lot of the Indians who came to America came with a very with a decent level of education, and they also the way the laws are situated, which is I think in a good way, right? Like basically getting they tend to be more educated than the average, just the way the way the system is set up. And I think because of that, I think education leads to a higher income level. But the other thing too is when you travel that far, basically when you travel that far, you get a more scrappy person who's just self-selected to do more, do more entrepreneurial things. And I think that also leads to these outcomes, which is I think a good thing. It's a good thing not just for Indians, but also a good thing for the entire world, good thing for America, and good thing for the world.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring Baiju on, because I agree with them on just about everything. So, Baiju, thanks for coming on. Thanks for what you're doing. It's exciting. Keep track of this stuff. It's got light speed. It's going to change the way we build houses and buy houses. And so proud to know you, Baiju. And come on in the next few months and give us an update, will you, how things are going?
No, absolutely. Would love to do that. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we'll be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show on WABC.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We are back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Having fun on the show today. We've had some great guests, including Baiju and Steve Forbes, and we've got some good guests coming up. So stick with us. Thanks for joining. Our audience keeps growing. You are the people who make this show possible. I love it, by the way, when I'm in New York or DC or Philadelphia, and people come up to me and they say, "Hey, I listened to the More Money Show." That just makes my heart palpitate. So I love that. And thank you for joining. We try to make it fun. We've been doing this now for 4 or 5 years, and the audience keeps growing. Let's go to the phone lines. I know a couple of people have been waiting patiently. I think we've got Mr. Producer Richard from Bay Shore. Richard, you're on.
Yes. Good afternoon, Steve.
Thank you for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome. I send away to Amazon and Walmart for a lot of stuff. And I realize now that one thing that these big international importers are doing to deal with the tariffs is they've gone to different distribution and trucking companies.
Yes.
Some of which are less, they're just not as good, For example, Walmart uses something called On Track, which is a rating of like 1.5 stars. They did okay by me. I got my stuff. Amazon uses SF Express, which is the biggest company in China for trucking, and they have their own fleet of airplanes, and they're growing on the American side, which I think we need to keep an eye on because they're probably CCP, and they seem to be looking to make some sort of a deal with UPS, which I don't like the idea of. You know what I mean?
Okay, so Richard, let me ask you. I appreciate your call. Good information. Do you support or are you opposed to the Trump tariff strategy?
Oh, listen, it's working out. Don't bet against Donald Trump, for God's sake. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
And, look, I'm a guy who's not a big tariff guy. I'm not. I like free trade. I don't like tariffs. I don't like taxes. But I think that so far it seems to be working out pretty well, Richard.
Well, but it's just a sort of an unexpected thing. If you can't cut the cost of the goods, cut the cost of the delivery, right? I mean. And so far it's 50-50. When I sent to Amazon for some clothes from China, they got here in no time. At the last leg of the trip, they farmed it out to some local truckers who screwed it up, and I had to spend a couple of days chasing after my stuff. It could have been brilliant, except for that last leg. They hired people who probably are just not as good.
All right, Richard, great call. Thank you for calling in. We've got a couple more people on the line. Let's try to get to David in Staten Island. David, you're on.
Howdy. We'd like to reference during the 1800s with the robber barons to help finance the railroad and such.
Yes.
A woman told me a few years ago that what I needed was a benefactor. My fifth great-grandfather in 1844 invented the first real submarine. He did not build it. Another person did and tried to steal it from Napoleon Bonaparte.
Right.
I needed help since the day I was born. I never knew my father, never had friends. I'm
B81. David, where were you born?
I am about 400 years on Staten Island. I'm with the Dutch and the Mayflower. No joke.
Well,
it took me a while to figure it out. Oh, by the way, the Dutch paid for Manhattan. The British took it out with guns. Yeah. That's how they got it.
There you go. Well, David, great call. Thanks for informing us on your past, and love when people call in and tell us about their history. Let's see. I think we have one more caller waiting, Mr. Producer, and I think we might be able to squeeze him in.
Yes, Jerry from New Jersey.
Jerry from New Jersey. Jerry, thanks for calling in.
Steve, thanks for taking the call. I just had one thing to say. I always call on the same subject, but I wish the Republican Party would just make one statement. Nobody on the face of the earth knows what the climate is going to do, and nobody on the face of the earth can change the climate one way or the other. And the amount of money we waste on stupid programs trying to believe that we can change the climate is beyond comprehension.
Jerry, I mean, it's a great call. Thank you for calling in. You know, this is why I take callers from folks, because we have so many smart people. What you're saying is so commonsensical. I mean, look, if you actually think the government has the power to change the weather, come on, really? I mean, these are people that can't run our schools, they can't run our cities, they can't, do anything. They can't deliver the mail on time. And really, we're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars trying to change the weather of the planet. It is, Jerry, you are 100% correct. The arrogance of this idea that government is going to change the weather pattern. Only globalist idiots who are, with multiple degrees would believe that's possible. By the way, the percentage of the atmosphere, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think I'm right. I wouldn't say 100, but it's like 0.8% or 0.08% of the atmosphere is carbon in the atmosphere. So how is that changing the weather patterns of the world? Though, we have gone through ice ages, we've gone through warming periods for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. It is beyond arrogance to think that, all we have to do is spend government money and give all this government money, hundreds of billions of dollars, to these left-wing groups, and then we're not going to have floods, and we're not going to have hurricanes, and we're not going to have tornadoes, and we're not going to have earthquakes. Come on, does anybody really believe that? Does anybody really believe that, if we just built more windmills and had more solar panels, we could stop storms from happening? We had a huge storm here in where I live in the DC area, knocked down 2 huge trees. Thank God they didn't fall on our house. We were without electricity for a number of days. It was just horrific. What am I going to do? Run out and give money to the Sierra Club to stop climate change? I mean, grow up, people. And seriously, grow up. If you actually think that the government is going to change the weather pattern of the earth, you got something else coming. And incidentally, I mean, you really got me going here, Jerry, but come on. China's pollution levels are multiple times higher than ours are. So even if the United States didn't even exist as a country, even if they vaporized the United States, it would have almost no impact on the carbon emissions, because China is building coal plants every week. They have almost 2 billion people in China. So they are the big polluters. And until China starts changing their ways, I don't want people to, incidentally, I'm glad Jerry called, and we got to take a break in 1 minute. But the left's new thing is get rid of air conditioners. Really? It's hot out there today, folks. Are we really going to you're willing to give up your air conditioner? I'm not going to give up my air conditioner. My parents used to talk about what it's like living in these places like Washington, D.C. before the age of air conditioning. By the way, air conditioning is one of the factors that's made the South so prosperous. It used to be you just couldn't live in the South in the summer because it was so hot. So I'm not giving up my appliances to save the planet. Call me selfish. But that's my own opinion. If the climate is changing, then we're going to fix it through technology, not through government programs. Folks, this is the More Money Show, having a lot of fun this afternoon. I hope you're having a great weekend, and we will be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. This is WABC. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I hope you're staying cool. Don't forget the left wants to take your air conditioner away from you because they think that's going to solve climate change. I'm not giving up my air conditioner. You can. You're welcome to do it. But I'm not. You're going to take that air conditioner out of my house over my dead body. One of my good friends and one of the regulars on this show, whenever I have a question about what's happening on the left coast, I call my friend Tom Del Beccaro. He was at one point the head of the Republican Party in the once great state of California. Tom, thanks for joining again.
Great to be back on the once great state. Yeah, last in affordability and last in opportunity in the United States. How's that possible?
Unbelievable. So, Tom, are you willing to give up your air conditioner to solve the global warming problem?
If giving up my air conditioner alone, well, anyway. So, it's interesting, Steve, you start with that because this week showed Gavin Newsom for all that he is, the fraud that he is. They put out and they made a big deal that they set a record for the most renewable energy percentage in American history for any state.
But they're also paying the highest price, right?
Exactly. Way back in 2016, the average energy costs in California are 80% above the national average. So his whole career, it's not about actual results for human beings. It's about the cause for which he's fighting. And that is his deal because his record's awful, yet he's still considered a presidential timber on the left.
You're making a great point, which is so much of what the left does is not about results. It's virtue signaling, and there's nobody who's better at virtue signaling than Gavin Newsom. It's, and one of my, dear friends, Bill Bennett, who was a Reaganite and he wrote a book called The Book of Virtues. And he used to say, and he still says this, he said, the problem with the left is they're concerned more about virtue signaling than virtue. And so it seems to me that applies to Gavin Newsom. All he does is virtue signal. But here's why I wanted to have you on, Tom. I think a lot of us on the East Coast don't understand what happened to California. I mean, when I was growing up in my teens and 20s and 30s, California was like an aspirational place. You go to California to get rich. And, you had Silicon Valley, you had Hollywood, you had, the beautiful beaches, you had the Beach Boys. I mean, everything was so great in California. And now we look, what happened?
Well, a victim of its own success. And I talk about this in the Lessons of the American Civilization. If you look out through all of history, you look at all of history, the coasts generally do better and get richer than the inland. That has to do with trading opportunities, but also the rich are drawn. They get rich, and when a society gets rich, it starts to and it passes the point of economic security, it turns its eyes towards social justice. And so California got ultra rich, and then they started down this social justice path. So the coasts are always more liberal than the inland. Yeah. And so California had an arc. It reached that arc under Reagan. And ever since then, it has been sliding down, and its policies just continue to get worse. I mean, see, I don't know if people watch. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this out loud, but the Food That Built America. So many of the great brands in American history came out of California, and this past week, we see that In-N-Out. Which honestly, I'm not an In-N-Out fan because I like Andy Putner's old company.
But we love it. I love In-N-Out burgers. We always say if you go to California, you have to go to In-N-Out burger.
Yes, and now it's moving to Tennessee along with Art Laffer. I'm sure he loves.
Are you serious? That's an iconic California company.
Yes, because what they did. Think of In-N-Out. $20 minimum wage. And In-N-Out did not raise its prices. You can read the story. They did their best. But at the end of the day, you have it's affordability. And, a lot of these places, California, you just can't do it. it's too expensive. You go in there and you get a meal to McDonald's or these other places. It's $15, $16, $17 a person. And how does a family of four living in the Central Valley and these other places afford it?
Well, a couple of things, Tom. I mean, you're giving us great information, and a couple of things. One is that if you look at what's happened to California in the last 20 or so years, the irony is the middle class has been hollowed out of California. So you have people in poverty, and you have really rich people, because really rich people can afford to pay the high cost of living there, and the middle class is. Am I wrong about that? It's the middle class that's left.
No, it's Hunter. That has gone. Yeah, Joe Kotkin, the great demographer, if anybody, Kotkin, read his stuff. He talked about 15 years ago. He talked about how all that was left was the rich, the poor, and the union members. Because California public employee unions and otherwise make a phenomenal return. But if those that could afford to move, the middle class, have gone to Arizona, have gone to Nevada, even Washington State, which has no income tax. But Steve, I don't. Before the end of the day, do you know my new son was born on June 16th? Do you know whose birthday that is?
Ooh, how's he doing, by the way?
He's doing great. But do you know who was born in history on June 16th?
No.
Adam Smith. How good is that?
The father of modern economics. So another reason, Tom, I wanted to bring you on is because as you know, New York is looking at, quite possibly, and I think probably, I hope I'm wrong about this, electing a socialist mayor. And it sounds like that's exactly what's happened in California.
Yeah. Oh, well, you look at Karen Bass, who praised Castro upon his death and used to go to communist rallies. You look at Chicago, where both of our families are from long ago. Again, they get super rich and then they turn this way. I had a piece in Fox 3 weeks ago about how those three big city mayors may well define the Democrats. If this kid gets in, now I don't know. Some of the polls are getting close with this guy because the more and more people find out. But look, Obama's father was a Marxist. Kamala Harris's father, a Marxist. Pete Buttigieg's father, a Marxist. At what point are we going to start believing them on what they say and how they were brought up?
Well, I'm very nervous about it because, obviously New York City we're WABC in New York, and it's our empire city. It's our biggest and most important city I would argue, in the world. And for it to go south like that would be devastating. And people should look to California. If you can see, I've always said, how can you ruin a place like California? It's like the most beautiful place on the planet.
And it's all public policy. And look, I also think Republicans have to do a much better job. Yeah. Our mutual friend, your great friend, Larry Kudlow, went on the lead into his show. He thinks free market capitalism is worth fighting for. We don't do a good enough job of that, the royal we. We have to get to people and explain to them that the middle class wasn't. Take a simple thing like the 40-hour work week. I watched Kamala Harris say it was unions that gave us the 40-hour work week. That's not true. It was Henry Ford who saw that he had too much turnover in employees, so he gave them 40-hour work week and a raise. It was a capitalist who created the wealth and then the opportunity.
So well put, Tom. Thanks for the update. We hope that New York City doesn't go with the way of California. I hope Chicago doesn't. But our big cities are being ruined, folks, by socialism. And I hate to see it because I love America's iconic cities and do not vote for socialists. Tom, thanks for coming on. Let's have you on in another few weeks for an update. Folks, when I get back, I will be taking your calls. 1-800-848-9222 on the More Money Hotline.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show, having a fun time on a Saturday afternoon. Thanks for joining. By the way, I'm just thrilled. Our ratings are very good. Thanks to you all, and appreciate such a loyal audience. There's no other station in America that has 5 hours of economics and finance and politics as we do on WABC. 3 hours of Larry Kudlow from 10 to 1, and then a More Money Show from 1 to 3. All the other stations, maybe with a few exceptions, are just canned commercials, boring stuff. We try to make it lively. We try to make your Saturday afternoon fun, where you can learn stuff. And we like to laugh. We like to laugh at some of our liberal friends, but they laugh at us, so why can't we laugh at them? And by the way, I love it when some of my liberal friends call in, and we got open lines, folks. So if you disagree with me on something that I've said, and I'm sure you do, call in. This is freedom of speech radio. I want to hear from you. By the way, I'm just looking at the call line. We got 4 or 5 people on, all men. Come on, where are the ladies? I get so angry that the ladies won't call in because, women run this country. They run my household, that's for sure. So I'd love to hear from you if you have an opinion about what's going on with America, what's happening with what are you happy with Trump's performance so far? If you're a liberal or somebody who disapproves of him, I want to hear what makes you angry about him. And by the way, I love Trump. I've worked for him, but I'm not an apologist for Trump. Some of the things he does, I don't like. Some of the things he does, I do like. Most of the things I do. I like his record so far, but I don't always agree with him on tariffs and other issues. So I'm willing to hear from you if you have a legitimate gripe about what Donald Trump is doing. Nobody bats 1,000. Certainly I don't. So a couple quick points I want to make before we get to our callers. First of all, credit cards. I think everybody probably listening to the show has a credit card. I would bet 95% of you do, and a debit card, and probably multiple credit cards. I have like 4 in my wallet. It used to be credit cards were just the playthings of rich people, but now the records show that the vast majority of Americans have credit cards. It's the way we pay for things. In fact, the percentage of transactions that are made with cash continues to go down and down and down and down and down. So most transactions now are made with credit cards, debit cards, or Apple Pay. I love Apple Pay, by the way. I don't even have to. I bet a year or two from now, I won't even have a credit card. I'll just have my Apple Pay. I'll just have my cell phone, and I'll be able to pay on that, which makes it so easy. We're turning into a cashless society. So this is good. And by the way, it's good for the merchants, because if I just have my cell phone, if I don't have cash in my wallet, I can still buy something. And we're impulse buyers in America. So it's good for retailers that people can buy things so conveniently with either their phone or their plastic in their wallet. And yet there's a war against credit cards, and that is, I think, troublesome, because what they want to do is set price controls on how much the credit card companies can charge the merchants for allowing them to have their service. And I hate wage and price controls. I hate them. It's a assault on the basic tenets of economics, which is the free market should decide what things cost, not the government, not politicians. And yet we have all the retailers that are running off to the Washington, and there's more retailers than there are credit card companies. And they say, put a price control on Visa and MasterCard and American Express and Apple Pay. And I'm like, no. It's a competitive market. If these retailers want to establish their own credit card, they can, and you could have a Macy's credit card. They used to be, by the way, when I was a kid, all the retailers had their own credit cards, and then said it's much more efficient to just have Visa, and others do it. My point is that this Durbin bill, which is gaining steam in Washington, is bad news. It's going to make credit cards less available to people. I think it's going to raise people's cost, and I think it's unfair credit cards provide a great service to retailers. The credit card companies take on the risk of fraud. They allow merchants not to have cash registers because most people are paying, and that means people who are running the cash register can't steal from the cash from that card. So in other words, I'm against that bill. I'm against the government setting price controls on credit cards. Incidentally, the credit card fee is like 2%. you get a lot for that 2%. And I'm not apologizing for the credit card companies. Sometimes I get angry at the credit card companies, but I guarantee you that a solution is not to have price controls. The other thing I wanted to mention is 6 months in, Trump's record on the economy is pretty darn good. It really is. And I've been somewhat of a skeptic on the tariffs, but the trade deals are coming in nicely. We got low unemployment now, low inflation. We've got high consumer confidence, high business confidence, a lot of business spending now. They're investing in America. It's all pointing up to me. So I think I'm going to give Trump the grade of a B. And I'm a tough grader, a B for his performance on the economy through his first 6 months. Remember, back in April, it wasn't looking good at all. I would have given him a D, but now it's improved dramatically. But I want to hear from you about how you feel like things are going on the economy or other things on your mind. And we will go now to the phones. Mr. Producer, who is next in line?
Walker from New Jersey.
Walker from New Jersey. What have you got, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. You were talking about building construction, home construction, and how it's changed since WW2. It's changed a lot. The 2x4 isn't a 2x4. They're using particle board. The houses today, they don't put a chimney in them. They either have a condensing furnace or a heat pump. They're cutting corners. They loosen the noose on building codes. Everything else, they tighten the noose.
So you think that there is productivity in the construction industry?
Oh, heck yeah. And they use a pneumatic gun. Patoo.
Good point. So, Walker, are you in the construction industry?
No, but I can see. I mean, I can see. I look out the window. They knock down these houses that were Cape Cods, and they build these houses in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And it's just obvious. They cut a lot of corners.
Yeah. So, Walker, you were probably listening earlier on the show when I had my friend Baiju on, who is starting a company that is going to build houses with robots. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's going to work out. I think they've obviously see how it works. Let the economic forces. It's an experiment. It's a real world test.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
That's exactly. See how it works. But I really think that if there's some way they could, there aren't a lot of laborers needed. I mean, there's no masonry today.
Yeah.
It's a great point, Walker. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. I'm glad you called in. Look, I just think this is called progress. I think it's, the robots are coming. They are going to change the way we work. We will see how it works out, whether the robots can increase productivity the way that we hope it will. And my point is a lot of the drudgery jobs are going to go away. There are going to be plenty of jobs, folks. It's just that, when I was a kid, back in the late 70s, my parents, we went to Detroit. We went into some of the steel plants. We went into the car plants. Those were not great jobs, folks. I mean, those were hot, sweaty, factories where people were working hard in those steel mills, and it was gritty work. And I remember saying, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but I don't want to work in one of these plants. Those jobs are going to be gone, and they will be gone. And that means it'll free up other kinds of things that we can do that don't require people to break their back and break their arm, and so many injuries that happened in those factories. So it is going to change. The change is coming, and I hope people are ready for it. Mr. Producer, do we have any more callers?
Yes, we have Bob in Connecticut.
Bob in Connecticut. Bob, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, hi, Steve. Thank you very much for taking my call. Love my Saturdays with you and Larry Kudlow. Even when I miss it, I get to listen to the podcast later on.
I'll send you that check for $50 for saying that. No, I'm just kidding, but it's very nice of you to say that.
So my comment is with respect to, I'm in the solar industry here in New England. I'm a conservative in the solar industry, so that's kind of strange. But the industry always was able to survive and grow without the tax credits.
Thank you. I mean, that's
when you throw hundreds of millions of dollars into an industry, they're going to take it.
Yes, and it's going to it could be the ruination of the industry.
Yeah. What is strange, and we're still trying to figure out on the residential side at the last minute. As we were following it through the House put a poison pill in their language, that prevented the big national solar companies from being able to bundle their residential projects and treat them as large commercial projects. They were smart. There were some very smart cookies in the House that prevented the lobbyists from getting their way. But at the last minute, those lobbyists got to one or two of the senators and allowed the big national companies. I can mention one of them who's the biggest, but I don't know if that's appropriate.
Yeah, go ahead. Which one's that?
It's Sunrun out of California.
Okay. Yep.
Basically, they run 95% of their business is based on the solar lease or the power purchase agreement. And in short, they're terrible financial instruments for the everyday consumer.
Right. Hey, I got to cut you off because we're coming to a hard break. Good call. Thank you very much. I think that the subsidies have ruined the wind and solar industry. Get the government out of it. Let the best man win, whether it's nuclear, natural gas, coal, solar, wind. I don't care. I just don't want the government to put its thumb on the scale. Folks, are you getting the Unleash Prosperity Hotline? Are you getting that? You should be. There's no reason you're not getting it. It's free. It costs you nothing. If you want to be the smartest person in the room when we're talking about policy issues in the economy, you've got to get unleashprosperity.com. My friend John Fond and I and other really smart people write it. You can read it in 5 minutes every morning, and it's free. I'm not selling you anything, folks. There's no advertising. So I want you to sign up for the Unleash Prosperity. Just go to unleashprosperity.com. Just click the button saying, I want the hotline, and you'll get information about it. And as I said, you can read it in 5 minutes. I know people in the White House are reading it. It goes up to 100,000 people every day. It goes out to members of Congress are telling me they're reading it. The first thing they read in the morning is the More Money hotline. So get that. Get it. It's just go to unleashprosperity.com. Click on hotline, say, I want it. Just send us your email. We don't sell the list or anything like that. It takes about 4 or 5 days for it to get in the system until you start receiving it. And then if you like it, which I think you will, because we have a high retention rate, like 90% of the people say, this is great. We love it. But if you don't, I understand you. We're not going to hurt our feelings. Just unsubscribe, but it is free. It is absolutely free. The More Money hotline at Unleash Prosperity. That's the group that Steve Forbes and Larry Kudlow and Art Laffer and I founded many years ago, and we try to inform people about the economy, and this is a great way to be informed. By the way, we always put like some humor item in there, so it's a little snarky, but people like snarky these days. And I hope you're having a great weekend. Don't give up your air conditioner, okay? It's going to be hot. This is late July and August. I know the left wants you to turn off your air conditioner. I'm telling you, you're not going to save the planet by getting rid of your heating and your air conditioning. I mean, that's the way, the number of people who die from severe weather has been reduced by 80 to 90% over the last 100 years. We don't see more deaths from flooding and tornadoes and hurricanes and, droughts and things. We see less deaths because we have the technology to deal with it. And the left is saying, take that technology away. Let's go back and live like it was the 1800s. I'm not going to do that. If you want to, you're welcome to do it. But you're not going to take my air conditioning away in the summer, and you're not going to take my heating away in the winter, and you're not going to turn the lights off. Sorry, that ain't happening. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I've had fun this afternoon. I hope you have. Get out, by the way. I know it's a little warm on the East Coast, but get out, get fresh air, get some exercise, get some sunlight, and have a great weekend. And we will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And we are now signing off on the More Money Show on WABC. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?